Hello both. Thank you for joining me today in our little chat or roundtable discussion panel, whatever you want to call it. But let's keep it quite light, as it's something that I think is needed for people at the moment, to keep things quite light. And although we'll obviously talk about everything that's going on in the world at the moment with COVID-19, let's try and keep on the light side of it, because I think that's what we all need. But firstly, I'm obviously Joe. You both know that, but for anyone watching, I'm at GlobalWebIndex. I work on the gaming side here, work with our gaming clients and working to bring new gaming clients on, as well as help boost our taxonomy and gaming data that we have. But mainly this today is about you two talking about your world. So it'd be great if you could both just give me a minute or two about what you do at your company, how life is working from home at the moment, and just a general outlook of what life means for Andy and Craig at the moment.
Absolutely. So my name is Andy Spencerley. I am a senior client partner at Sony PlayStation, working within the network advertising team. My role is primarily to work with gaming publishers and partners to increase their presence on the PlayStation Store within the console environment through native advertising.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm the director of Fnatics. For those who don't know, we're one of the world's leading esports organizations. We're a world-class top 3 esports team, rights holder, but also an agency and a lifestyle all in one. So I'm partner development director here, where basically I'm responsible for bringing on board the right brands of strategic interest to help us achieve our mission and our purpose as a business, which is to forge a nation of 1 billion fanatics. So you can't do that by sitting still. So it's a lot of fun and a lot of games, excuse the pun. And yeah, you'll have to excuse the bit dark background behind me, but I'm in a streaming room right now. So back in the office during COVID, which is a very bit of a relief as well to get away from home.
That was going to be my first question. What's working from home life meant for you two? How is the business adapting, and are you missing out on anything, or has it enhanced any ways that you're working at all?
I mean, I could go first, Andy, if you want, mate. Or
yeah, absolutely, please do, mate. Yeah,
cool. I mean, yeah, it's from a business standpoint, an organizational structure standpoint, it's been, well, it's had its challenges, right? I think with every business in the world right now. We are obviously quite a digital company anyway. We use a lot of different tools to communicate internally every single day. So for us, the transition wasn't too painful, to be honest with you. Tools like Slack, for example, is something that's kind of built into the DNA of Fnatic. And so, you know, for us, for our day-to-day, it's not been too bad. It's just the usual communication standpoint in terms of you can't beat a bit of face-to-face contact, and it's very easy to resolve something in 5 seconds face-to-face rather than 5 different messages on Slack. So for us, it hasn't been too painful. What's kind of hit us the hardest during COVID is in regards to our retail business. You know, esports has gone on this incredible journey during COVID, which we've actually come out of it, and I use this term lightly, but we've come out of it pretty well, albeit during a crisis. So, you know, just like any other live event industry, we were immediately impacted quite heavily. A lot of esports tournaments cancelled, leagues, events in general, and we had to have a huge pivot to take those physical assets into the virtual world. And that was a process in and of itself, which took a good few weeks. But since we got all that resolved, we've then seen pretty much every metric across the board on the up. And it's not just, you know, 1 or 2%, we're talking 70, 80% across the board. So it's been quite a journey, that's for sure.
Nice.
I think for me, my personal experience of working from home has actually been really, really positive. I certainly think it's going to change the way that Sony as a business, and probably a lot of other media companies, look at how their staff work and go into the office 5 days a week and things like that. I find it really, really enjoyable, and I found that I think I'm probably working pretty efficiently as well, and I think that probably goes for both my team and Sony as a business. I think when this all sort of first happened, there were some worries. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts at Sony. There are a lot of various different teams, and obviously it's a really important year for us. But actually, really, really quickly, we found that the business as a whole was working really efficiently and probably as well as they would had everyone been at the office. So I think it was quite surprising, actually. Working from home has been a lot easier, and the transition to working from home was really, really smooth. And I really don't think that we'll go back to working how we were previously. I think the biggest tip for me is just the social aspect of it, working with a team every day, and the banter's not quite the same on Slack as it is in the office, right?
Yeah, it's all a bit deliberate, isn't it? A little bit. Yeah. So I think I speak for everyone when I say quizzes and Zoom drinks have they've maybe gone on a long way.
They've outstayed their welcome.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We'll be opening soon, mate. Don't worry. We're
Saturday to wait for that.
But it's like what we were saying before. We actually started recording this in terms of COVID as it's essentially been an accelerator agent. These societal changes when it comes to work and wider society, really, they were already, those type of movements were already in place. Working from home was becoming more and more regular, and COVID's just accelerated it. I think, Andy makes a great point. I think business leaders now are realizing, well, actually, we don't need that super expensive retail space in London anymore. The workforce is just as productive, if not more productive, within a digital or outside of retail space environment. And I think that will have quite profound knock-on effects for the foreseeable future. But I think everyone's kind of realized, well, actually, we don't need that really expensive office in Oxford Street or wherever it is anymore. The guys can offer just as well, operate just as well remotely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of businesses are seeing that. Obviously, it's hitting some of those companies hard because that means negative impacts for some of them. But I mean, for gaming industry, which is largely digital anyway, it's been something that hasn't hindered things too much. And obviously, as you'll both be able to tell us, that there's probably been an uptick in everyone's world that's here on the call here, because people are spending more time at home. Like, there's no sports, so people are like making that transition naturally to esports. So for the Fnatic side and Craig, and people are probably spending more time on their games consoles at home, and that's going to be a huge thing for the PlayStation Store, the PlayStation Network, for example. Which was going to bring me to a natural question from a market research company, which is how companies are using data during this time. We obviously collect third-party data on consumer behaviors, which people are still finding really important. But there is also a little bit of pushback with people saying, well, the data is going to be skewed a little bit because of coronavirus. But absolutely so it should be, because this is something that everyone's going through and everyone's going to be responding and acting differently. But Craig, you mentioned that your figures are going up quite a lot. Are you seeing more use for that first-party data, or are you still... Is there still kind of gaps that you're needing to collect or fill to people that are wanting to know more about what's going on within esports?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there's quite a few answers I can give to your questions there. So, in terms of when it comes to data, I've always been a huge advocate of it here internally at Fnatic and brought GWI into the business. And since then, we've shameless little plug for you here, I suppose. But since then we've won a lot of deals due to the data and the insight, more importantly, that we can generate from GWI. So not just your platform, but the surveys that we use for our partners, for example, to show. The beauty of esports is that we've got digital, tangible, measurable assets, right? And for us, using GWI to measure and report back on those is really important to drive value. So those type of initiatives or projects are becoming more and more common in terms of how we utilize data and how we tell a better story for our partners in terms of the value that they're getting. That is only increasing. The way that the data is being used has actually kind of shifted a little bit in terms of brands were originally using data to understand the space. now they're looking to understanding in a different way, more away from the education, but how can they integrate their brand, both product and the brand itself in terms of its IP. So, you know, those demands are just going up and up all the time. They're forever increasing. And then for us on a COVID journey, like what I was alluding to a bit before in terms of the accelerator agent of COVID, but also how esports is digital in its nature. You know, the community responses that we've had during this crisis has been quite incredible. So, you know, esports is very community driven as much as it is digital, and we take a lot of pride in that. For example, you know, Riot Games put together the mid-season streamathon. All the proceeds went to COVID. We did a collaboration with UNICEF. We got like Marcus Rashford on board. That was all around cyberbullying and having positivity and not a toxicity kind of mindset to online behavior. So all these amazing initiatives have come out of what is a really difficult and dark situation. So that's why you've seen kind of esports flourish. And going to your earlier point in terms of saying, well, of course the data will be skewed, but I think, you know, when it comes to people engaging with games, I mean, the World Health Organization did a complete spin, basically. A year and a bit ago, they said that gaming was negative and it was addictive. And during COVID, they've actually completely turned and said, well, actually, it's a huge positive thing and it's great for mental health. It's great for social interaction because of the community-led initiatives I've just touched on. And I can only see it going in one direction. The challenge for us as an industry now is how do we keep that audience that we've managed to grab from traditional during this? How do we keep them engaged? And that's going to be the real key challenge that we face. And some people will do well and some people won't do well. And we think at Fnatic we're going to do well. We're an entertainment brand and a global entertainment brand. So we want to entertain our fans, and that's what we're all about. So we think we're going to keep hold of them, but we'll wait and see.
I think what's interesting as well, and talking about, you know, further bringing gaming into the mainstream, especially within COVID, you know, there's been a real rise of professional sports players using the likes of Twitch and other streaming platforms to play. I know we had like Aguero playing FIFA, and you know, there's a lot of F1 players, F1 drivers playing the F1 game. So I think you know, that in itself really does bring credit to gaming, and really shows that, you know, if professional sports players are, you know, playing their games in spare time, then, you know, it's definitely a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Just a real quick question. Sorry, Joe, doing your job, but like, have you seen any extra requests come in on Sony's side from any talent or any other business units that have gone like, you know, gaming or esports is of interest now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the past couple of years, we've certainly seen an increase in appetite. And actually, Sony has an esports division. There's a tool built into the PlayStation itself that allows specific games to run esports tournaments within the PlayStation platform itself. So it's certainly something that we've seen a rise in, and something that Sony as a business is looking at very, very closely.
Nice. I was just about to ask, Andy, you must have reams of first-party data that you collect on users and time spent and purchases. Just how impressive is it, or has it been for you?
So to give you some insight, when I joined Sony, I came from sort of a digital media owner to join PlayStation, and within my first week, I was shown the data that you know, we were able to utilize and we had on our users, and it just completely blew my mind. You know, super great data, and it's really important for us as well because, as Craig mentioned, you know, we're in a space now where partners and publishers are really looking at data and really looking at utilizing the data to make the best decisions on their advertising campaigns and who they should be targeting for upcoming beats and things like that, and you know, who their target audience is. So I think it's really important for us to be able to harness the data that we have available to us to make sure that we're helping these guys make the right decisions for their games. So yeah, for me especially, the wealth of data that Sony has is really quite impressive.
Nice. And staying on the trail of success here, both companies have had some really big news come out in the last month or so. Starting with PS5, Andy, how's it been affected with COVID? I mean, was there delays? Was there thoughts about how the message should be different? I mean, Sony's presence at E3 is pretty much non-existent anyway recently, but that's obviously taken away the typical announcement. But how has COVID affected how you've gone about announcing and putting PS5 to market?
So surprisingly, I think everything ran pretty smoothly. To be honest with you, I think everything was on track, and it's we announced PS5 around the sort of time that E3 was anyway, and that was within our window when we wanted to announce. So it didn't really have any effect on it at all, really. I think the only effect that it had was it was a pre-recorded video rather than it being live streamed in front of an audience in probably would have been LA or something like that, I imagine. Yeah. So it, in that respect, it was really quite impressive that the guys were able to do that. And not only that, but we've had The Last of Us 2 come out in the last couple of weeks, which again, to release a game like that in these circumstances is pretty incredible. And I think the reception to that game has been pretty outstanding as well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the holiday period and whether the excitement for the PS5 is going to be sustained, which I'm pretty sure it will be. Yeah,
I mean, I'd imagine the timing's been really good for social listening data, because more people at home, more time to kind of discuss it. And like you said, The Last of Us, I know that's been hugely popular anyway. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that transpires into actual sales once the release comes and the holiday season hits. But Craig, over to you. I mean, huge success for you as well, because you've had the Gucci partnership announced with Fnatic, which is huge, really good. We've seen, high-end fashion and esports coming together a lot more over the last kind of 6 months or a year. Again, same question. Did that have any impact on, or did COVID have any impact on that announcement? Or, was there any pushback from Gucci about whether this is the right time? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for for the kind words. It's always nice. It's always nice to hear those when there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes by the team, and yeah, we take great pride in what we do. So thank you for that. And I mean, we in the last 3 to 4 months have actually had some really big announcements, but 2 that really stick out is one, Gucci, and the second, BMW. And the Gucci one I'll talk to you a bit more about first. So, for us, it was the perfect alignment in terms of luxury, premium fashion brand, and the premium brand in esports that is Fnatic, and merging those 2 audiences and those 2 worlds together to create an amazing collaboration. And we've got a watch, a limited edition watch that's gone out with Gucci called the Dive. And for those who aren't big League of Legends gamers, there's a link to League of Legends there in terms of diving off towers and things like this. So it was a real nice authentic angle, buzzword, sorry for that, but authentic angle when it comes to the actual product itself and the collaboration. So we have a limited edition amount of watches, and we've actually sold out in less than 2 days. So I was really, really happy with that. And bear in mind, there is a price point of over £1,100 for that watch during, the biggest financial crash we've ever seen. So, I won't lie, there was a few squeaky bum moments, but, Gucci the perfect partner for us, and their team is world-class in terms of how they do things, and we like to think that we're world-class, and we have just been absolutely blown away with the response from the fans. We've been there, all expectations on Gucci's end were absolutely smashed. We were anticipating before COVID, this deal was wrapped up quite a few months ago now, but we were anticipating before COVID to maybe sell out by the end of the year. And, we're during COVID, and we've sold out in 2 days. So, we're ecstatic. And hopefully it's going to be one of many steps with Gucci that we're working on now. So that's the fun and games on our end. So yeah, it's been great few weeks for that. The second is obviously BMW, and that was a much wider partnership where we were one of 5 teams that they brought into their portfolio of teams to work with. But again, it shows the alignment. You know, for us, with partnering with BMW is all about innovation, technology, and performance. That was perfectly aligned with the values of what Fnatics stands for, and esports as an industry. So, you know, we're, like I said at the start, we're extremely proud of what we're doing here, and we truly believe we're shaping the future of sports entertainment. So the fact we've managed to get 2 of the biggest institutions in the world is as category-wide partners, it's kind of a dream come true kind of scenario. So now it's the hard work to better it more.
Exactly, and that's going to kind of come to one of my last questions or latter questions. The hard work kind of starts now, I think, in some ways, in that there's increasing numbers that are getting involved in gaming and the consumer base is growing. My kind of last question is quite open. It's just, what do you see the future outlook being, and how are you going to put in that hard work to make sure that the spike in gaming is sustainable?
So I think from our perspective at Sony, I think a lot of that kind of falls onto the guys that are making the games, right? We've certainly seen a pretty significant pivot towards sort of free-to-play titles and live service games. You know, you've got the likes of Fortnite and sort of more recently Call of Duty Warzone, where they're releasing, you know, seasons and constant map updates and changes and you know, what have you. And I think that really does help with the longevity of a game, and with, you know, such a low barrier of entry being a free-to-play title, coupling that with the, you know, consistent updates and keeping things fresh and things like that really does help to keep sustainability within gaming. And certainly from our perspective at PlayStation, you know, we've got a new console coming out later on this year, so, you know, I've got no doubt that's going to, you know, have an increase in playtime and users as well. And that doesn't go for Sony either. That's, you know, across the board with Microsoft and Xbox and you know, the like there. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. In terms of, from our perspective, the hard work for us now is going to be kind of what I said earlier, is how do we keep those fans that have crossed over into this space engaged? And it's kind of all the stakeholders need to work together on this, where, you know, we create, the publishers create really amazing fun games. Riot have brought out new titles like Valorant, for example, which is going to keep the content fresh. Then how do the teams bring the stories, which is the talent, and how do we tell the best story within the content that we can produce to help fans buy in emotionally to what we can do? But I think coming out, or I say coming out of COVID, I mean, we're still you know, going through the worst of it. But I think from a esports team side, we kind of have responsibility along with our partners to basically help make more positive social impacts in terms of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that will really help set us apart from other sports and our competition in general. I think humanity is going to be a word that's probably going to be, you know, a buzzword or overused maybe in the future, because I think we've got to a point now within society, and we're seeing it a lot with the positive social movements that are going on, like Black Lives Matter, for example. It's how do we, as an organization, how do we as an industry help ensure that what we do on a day-to-day basis that we call work, how do we help society progress and move forward in everything that we do? So, you know, we've opened up new platforms like Fnatic Network or Fnatic Live for fans to get access to support to help them achieve their dreams. And I think we could do a lot more, and it's just the beginning now. So I think that would be kind of a key theme for us moving forward.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you to both. I think we'll kind of stop it there. It's been really insightful, some of understanding what's going on in each of your world and what this whole pandemic has meant for you, and there's been some really positive stuff on there, and there's still, like you say, a lot of hard work to be done. But yeah, I think if this increase continues within gaming, I think both your organisations will be in a really good place as we kind of continue. So my last question to you will be just more of a personal one rather than taking it away from the company. So for each of you, I want to know what's been the game that you've played the most over the pandemic or the lockdown period, and a disclaimer that would be not during working hours for your employers. Also, as a second point to that, what's been your favorite or perhaps your most ridiculous lockdown purchase? So I'll start. I've played at the start too much Football Manager, so I had to retire from that. I've now gone on to playing a ridiculous amount of NBA 2K because I could get it from Andy from the PlayStation Store for a very good price. So
Thank you.
I'm adding to the stats there, and that brings me on to my purchase, which you might not be able to see for anyone that's watching the recording, but you guys should be able to see. I bought a Dennis Rodman 97-98 Chicago Bulls jersey, which it's making me feel a lot cooler than I am.
It's a very strong purchase. Was that inspired by the Michael Jordan documentary by any chance?
Yeah, so I've obviously been watching that at the same time. I was actually quite late to watching it because being stubborn and not jumping on the bandwagon, I kind of left it too late. But then when I started watching, I was like, what was I doing? This is awesome. But you guys, what's been your kind of game of this period and also purchase?
So the game that I've been playing most is probably GTA Online. So I mean, the game has spanned across 3 generations now, right? Which is pretty insane in itself. And the stuff you can do in that game is absolutely wild. So that's been really taking up most of my free time. I've become quite a businessman in GTA Online. I've got various fingers in various pies. So I'm doing quite well out of it. But my most wildest purchase, I think, if you were to ask my missus, I think within like the second week of lockdown, I went into a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole and ended up buying an industrial pack of tooth floss. I don't know how or why. I don't know. I don't know what happened. A moment of madness, and the next day, Amazon.
Oh no, we've got you frozen.
Oh, right on the cliffhanger, right? Yeah. Hello, is it gone?
I think you might have frozen.
They've never been used. They're all still wrapped up.
Andy, I think back you froze.
No, it's all right, mate. It wouldn't be a proper like meet Google Hangout or anything without a technical issue. So I'm glad we got it in at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually did it on purpose just to throw a curveball into it.
Yeah,
but
just admit you didn't admit it while you brought it. Just admit it.
Did you guys get my my wild purchase?
We got to the floss, but I don't think we caught the reason.
Okay, well, look, I'll be honest with you, there was no reason. I had a bit of a moment of madness, and I've got like 250 toothpick floss stick things still sitting. I bought these like 2.5 months ago. They're still sitting in the box, not touched any of them. So yeah, there you go. I think it's too late to send it back now as well. But
yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, brilliant. Joe, we'll have to send you to North Korea now. You've got your Dennis Rodman shirt. That's. But for me, it's you know what, I started lockdown just playing FM, Football Manager. Then I got really nostalgia, and I was like, right, Champman 0102.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then COD Mobile. Those have been all my ones, and the purchase was around, well, in-game purchases anyway on COD Mobile. So turns out I'm pretty decent, which is quite rare for me. So yeah, I've gone through all sorts, modern day to nostalgia, back to mobile as a platform. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Nice, I like that. All right, well, cheers, guys. That was really useful for joining. So thank you everyone for watching, if you've been watching, and thank you both for joining me. And yeah, hopefully we can do another one of these in a few months' time and see what's changed. But yeah, that's all for now. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for the opportunity. Cheers.